Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 9, entitled The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev. Text 16. The Battle of Kurukshetra had recently concluded, and the Pandavas were victorious. After being coronated as the king of the world, Yudhisthira Maharaj, rather than celebrating his victory, rather than feeling great joy that after being persecuted for so many years, he had finally gained the throne that he was entitled to, he felt miserable. Because he was blaming himself for all of the sorrow, for all of the death and the tears that was caused by this great battle. He was thinking, just for me to ascend to this throne, look at all the widows who are crying for their husbands. Look at all the children who are crying for their fathers. Look at all the parents, broken-hearted, weeping for their sons. And look at all these people who have lost their lives. He was faultless, but yet he was seeing only faults in himself. And because this was a symptom of his humility, of his devotion, Krishna himself personally wanted to alleviate the sufferings. Within this world, the nature of the false ego is we want to blame people for our own faults, our own shortcomings. The tendency is to compensate, that it's because of other people, or other things, or other situations. We want to blame people for our shortcomings, and we want to take the credit for what other people do. That is a tendency. And Srila Prabhupada, what he did, unbelievable. He went on that Jaladuta, August the 13th, it was a Friday, sailed something like 38 days on a cargo ship, and all of the physical ailments he had on the way. He came to New York City just having 2 heart attacks, seasickness, 70 years old, no money, nothing. That's how he began his mission. Nobody was there to help him. Nobody in India wanted to help him. They all said it was hopeless, was fruitless, come back. Be like the rest of us. Do what you can here. And by his austerities, by his determination, by his unlimited love and compassion for all beings, by his total devotion to the order of his Gurudev, he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And here was London. Quite incredible, because London ruled over India for years. And here, Srila Prabhupada, there were hundreds and hundreds of devotees from all over the world gathered at Bhaktivedanta Manor in London. He was installing the deities of Radha Gokulananda. What a great landmark of incredible success. The next day was his Vyas Puja. And Srila Prabhupada read from he quoted a verse from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then he told how it had just been published. And he said, all due to the hard work of His Grace Prajumana Prabhu, who I call Mahashai. It is not my work, it is because of his hard work. The credit goes to him and his wife Arundhati, who edited. And then he started talking about so many of his other devotees. Most of them were actually grihastas he was talking about. Men and women, husbands and wives. How they have successfully opened so many centers and established, the BBT and done so much work to publish his books. He was giving all credit to everyone else. This is the mood of a Vaishnava. One who is starving within needs to get all sorts of adoration, prestige, and credit. But one who actually is tasting Krishna within doesn't need that. Such a person feels infinitely greater pleasure giving credit to others. The amount of joy that we get taking credit for ourselves is like a drop of salt water when you're thirsty. It just makes you more thirsty. The more credit you get, the more you need. The more prestige you get, the more you need. It's like that. You're thirsty and you get a drop of salt water. It tastes really good, but it makes you more thirsty. But from the Vaishnava perspective, when we actually learn the art, it actually, for the heart, for the ego, this gives a little bit of satisfaction. It's really that satisfaction just agitates you for more. But for the heart, there is unlimitedly more satisfaction in giving credit to others, in seeing the good qualities in others. That's how a Vaishnava lives. That's how our acharyas have taught us. And here we're speaking about Yudhisthira. He was absolutely faultless. And yet rather than blaming Duryodhana, he's blaming himself. Vaishnavera kriya mudra vikena bhujaya. It's very difficult to understand the mind of a Vaishnava. It seems logically inconsistent. But that was his mood. He saw so much suffering and he took responsibility. So Krishna is bringing Yudhisthira Maharaj all the way back from Hastinapur to Kurukshetra. That place is still there, Bhishma Kund in Kurukshetra, where Bhishma was laying in a bed of arrows. He was quite an inconceivable person too. Vaishnava is very difficult. Mahabharata, you really have to go deep into the purports of the acharyas to understand what's really happening. Otherwise, it's just an amazing story. But we're not just so concerned with the amazing story. We're concerned with the inner meaning of what Krishna is teaching us. And actually, just by reading Mahabharata, we cannot understand it. We must understand it from the enlightened, realized souls. And therefore, very, very important, crucial aspects of Mahabharata are retold in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And they're spoken by Shukadev Goswami. He's really taking the essence of the Mahabharata when he speaks these stories. And then we have all the great acharyas giving their commentaries. Sanatana Goswami, Ramanujacharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sridhar Swami, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Srila Prabhupada has taken all of these commentaries and taken the essence of all of them, and with his own personal divine realizations, and given us the Bhaktivedanta purports. Bhishma, he chose to fight on the side of Duryodhana. Unbelievable. Duryodhana was envious, wicked, cruel, murderous. He was an excellent manager. He was a super excellent organizer, manager, was good at PR. Materially, Duryodhana was top class. I mean, he could make the CEOs of the greatest corporations anywhere in the world look like fools. He was good. He would bring you to the top no matter what, somehow or other. He knew how to do it. He could take over the entire world. That was how expert he was. He was tremendous at diplomacy also. When it came time, he took over the kingdom, along with Dhritarashtra, his father. But not only that, but when it came time for the Kurukshetra battle, they were canvassing allies. It's kind of like what happens in the parliament here in India. What do they call? I don't know politics, I'm sorry. I don't know the words you use or anything like that. But one party needs other parties to join them in order to get the majority. Yes? Huh? Anyways, it takes a lot of diplomacy to do that. Well, Duryodhana, Yudhisthira was canvassing people to join his army. And Duryodhana, it's not just a bunch of demons. There were some really good people. That Duryodhana, his diplomacy, he was very, very gracious and very hospitable and very, very well-mannered, and and kind to people in order to get them on his side. And he won over far, almost double the amount as the Pandavas. Even Bhishma. Bhishma knew he was wicked and he was cruel. He did all this nice diplomacy and acted very polite and everything else, but he had ulterior motives. He wanted to rule, that's all. Hook or crook, he would do it. Any means. Bhishma saw it all. He suffered miserably. He suffered giving up. He was supposed to be the king himself. But just to please his father, he gave up his rights. So his father could get married to the woman he wanted. Quite a sacrifice. And then he had to see so many atrocities. The next king that came was killed. And then Pandu died in the forest for some inconceivable reason. And then Yudhisthira, who was just, from his very birth, he was the most pious, most loving, most qualified person in the entire world. And he was being subdued when he grew a little older into a child with his 4 brothers. They were persecuted. There was a plot to burn them alive in that house of lac. Even Kunti Devi. The idea was Kunti and all of her children were going to be burned alive while they're sleeping. That was Duryodhana's way of thinking. Bhishma saw it all. He knew what was happening. He saw how that gambling match was cheating, total cheating. There was nothing fair about it. 100% the Pandavas could only lose. And then they were banished to the forest. Bhishma watched as Draupadi was about to be stripped naked just before Krishna came to rescue her. He saw so much. He was always on the Pandava side. Why, when it came to the war, he chose to fight for Duryodhana? Some people say it's because Duryodhana maintained him financially, and because he was the king, he had to be loyal. Externally, that is there. But here, Srila Prabhupada is revealing us internally. Bhishma understood the plan of the Lord. He knew he would lose and he would die. Just to show the world, even the most powerful, the most expert of everybody is going to lose if they're on the wrong side. And he was so great. He massacred in one day a major portion of the Pandava army. Consider this. This is the reality. Bhishma single-handedly had the ability to destroy the entire Pandava army. Of all the millions of soldiers, actually, they didn't even need them. Bhishma alone could massacre everybody. He was good. That's why Duryodhana was so confident. He has to win. There's no question of losing with Bhishma. And Duryodhana got Bhishma angry, and he went into the battlefield next day, and it was a massacre. And the Pandavas were totally depressed. We can't even stand before him. How can you fight against a man like that? It's like a hurricane, a cyclone. Yes, have you ever seen a hurricane or a cyclone? When it comes, just, and you're shooting arrows at it. What do you do? That day, the Pandavas were just watching, like, what? Bhishma was too much. And Krishna told the Pandavas, you have to just go and ask Bhishma how he could be killed. That's the only way. Because he can't be killed any other way. He has a benediction. Nobody could kill him. But if you ask him, he'll tell you the secret. And they went to talk to Bhishma, and Bhishma was happy. He said, yes, I've been waiting for this day to tell someone how to kill me. I want to die. I'm sick of this material world, with all the atrocities and all the diplomacy and all the envy and all the anger and all the lust and all the arrogance. This material world is just, I want to go back to my home. Because he was a Vasu. He was living in the planets of the rishis. Not just the heavens. These are above the heavens, the planets of the rishis and the sages. Swargalokas, the heavenly planets, where Indra's enjoying like anything. But then Maharloka, Tapaloka, these planets are planets of great rishis. They're enjoying millions of times more than the heavens, sitting in meditation. That's what they do. So he wanted to get out of this material world. He considered it like a curse that he wouldn't die and that nobody could defeat him. He wanted to be defeated so he could get out of this place. So he told the Pandavas, with great joy, this is how you could kill me. Just bring Sikandi in front of me and let her shoot the first arrow. And then Arjuna, shoot with all your might and cover me from my neck to my toes with arrows. They have to go all the way through my body, from the front through the back. There shouldn't be space to even put a single finger between the arrows. How many of you would give such an instruction to someone? It's quite serious. It's painful. And Arjuna, on the battlefield, Arjuna was shooting, but he loved Bhishma, so he was shooting with love. He was going, and what didn't work? It wasn't Bhishma's body was like a mountain. He said, he was chastising Arjuna, harder, harder, with all your might. And Arjuna was weeping and crying with tears of love going, they were going right through. Nobody else had the power to penetrate his body. It was so strong. And after all these arrows from his neck to his toes, hundreds and hundreds of arrows piercing all the way through his body, through every one of his organs, right? There were so many arrows going to his kidneys and his liver and his heart and his lungs, his gallbladder. Every part of his body was totally pierced, right? His thyroid. And he didn't die. He just laid down. And he stayed alive. Who would want to stay alive with all those arrows in you? And everybody came and offered their pranams to him. They stopped the battle for the day. And they continued the next day, and so many days, and he was just laying there watching. And they left the battlefield. They went back to Hastinapur, coronation. And Krishna knew that Bhishma was waiting only for him. He would not die without seeing Krishna, without offering his love to Krishna. And Krishna came for his devotee. That person who fought against his devotee was his devotee. Because Krishna knew that Bhishma was willing to be an instrument of fighting on the wrong side and being misunderstood for all time to come, just for Krishna to teach the world a lesson. That however great you are, however skilled you are, however powerful you are, if you're not doing it for Krishna, if you're not doing it with Dharma, then eventually you will lose. You can appear to be winning for some time, like Duryodhana, but it's just a matter of time. So Yudhisthira was in this state where he was giving whatever greatness and whatever achievements he had accomplished, he gave all credits to Krishna and to all other people. And he was taking the responsibility for faults that were not his own. So Krishna brought him before Bhishma. The thing he's thinking is why? Why such good people have to suffer so bad in this material world? It wasn't because of karma, because they were so pure. The nature of the material world is simply people have to suffer. When Nimai Pandit and all the devotees were Srivas Thakur, when they were performing Nam Sankirtan in Srivasangam, the house of Srivas, one of the common criticisms of the atheistic people is whether you're a sinful materialist breaking all the laws of religion, or whether you're a pure saint performing great tapasya, still you have to grow old and disease and die. So what is the difference? That's what they were saying. It's there in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Why should we give up our drinking and going to find, nice, beautiful women and somehow or other accumulating wealth and power and prestige? Why should we give these things up? It feels good. These people are giving all these things up, and they're living such pious lives, but they get sick just like us. They get old just like us. And they die just like us. We don't see a difference. What's the use? This way they would blaspheme the devotees. You people are just a bunch of idiots. You're fools. You're crazy. You're wasting your lives. And you're inducing other people to do the same thing. Don't go near my children and influence them with this stuff. We need our children to accumulate more money and carry on what we're doing and to help us and to enjoy life to the fullest capacity. And your influence, you're making them brahmacharis? Giving up all these things? For what? For what? Brahmachari ashram people are sick all the time. Go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital, you always see some brahmachari laying in the bed, you know. What to speak of these grihastas? They're living with such high principles. For what? The people at Srivasangam wasn't using these specific examples, but this was their spirit. We hear this all the time. This is a universal criticism of people who are not religious. And today's world, in the name of science, in the name of the advancement of civilization, people are giving so much evidence through the lens of their own egos to prove that there is no God. And therefore these religious people are simply superstitious, sentimental, weak-minded people. And they're misleading the society to not enjoy the real pleasures of life. But when Krishna comes, when Ram comes, they don't tell us that if you become a devotee, material life, you will not suffer. On the material level, everyone has to suffer. Everyone has to grow old. Everyone has to get diseased. Everyone has to die. And everyone has tribulations. The Pandavas were pious. They had no record of bad karma, but yet they suffered like this. And look at poor little Kunti. She was such a pious lady. And not only that, she was totally surrendered to Krishna at every moment. But what she had to endure, she had to see her children being banished. Could you imagine how she worried about them? And she was right there in the palace, hearing the rumors that were against her children. And she saw her eldest son fighting against her other children in a battle. And then one of her sons was killed by his younger brother. Can you imagine Kunti's heart? A mother's heart? And she was a great devotee. Not only was she a great devotee, she was Krishna's auntie. She loved Krishna not only as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but as her nephew. What a great soul. Why did she have to suffer like this? In the material world, it's the way material nature works. We can judge things by karma, good karma, bad karma. Those in karma kanda, they understand that good karma brings good results, bad karma brings bad results. But even in karma kanda, if you actually go deep into it, it's not just about having a pleasurable life in this world. Because even the best karmakandis who give so much charity and do so much philanthropy and who do so much selfless service to humanity, they suffer like everyone else. They may get some good benefits for a while, but still, we see it happens. Actually, if you go deep into the philosophy of Karmakanda, they're doing it so that in their next life they could go to the heavenly planets, where there's a much greater degree of happiness. But this little Earth planet, Dukalayam Ashashvatam, there's happiness, there's distress. Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. There's danger at every step, whoever you are. This beautiful verse, padam padam yadvi padam natesham, it describes that those who go back to Godhead, they're happy. They're no longer in this world where there is danger at every step. But whoever you are, even if you're a Paramhamsa, great devotee, still there's danger at every step in this world. For what reason? Achintya, inconceivable. Why Prabhupada had to get these heart attacks? And then he gets to New York and he starts the movement with a few people and he has a stroke. Inconceivable. Why Srivas Thakur's son died? He's just a little boy. This is all very inconceivable. Bhishma, he's Mahajan. And of these 12 great authorities, Srila Prabhupada in purport, he said, even Shiva and Brahma, even Yamaraj can't understand. Even Shukadev Goswami and Kapila Dev cannot understand. Even Swayambhuva Manu, the greatest authorities who we have to follow their footsteps for realization, they cannot understand the inconceivable will of the Lord. Why things happen in this material world, even to great people, how they happen. But what makes a Mahajan? A Mahajan is someone who knows that they don't know. Yes? That's the difference. We argue about so many things with each other and we become enemies. But the Mahajans understand the Lord's will is inconceivable. But there's one thing that is absolutely 100% certain at all times. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashati. Krishna always protects his devotees. Yes, devotees' bodies get old, they get sick. Sometimes they get in accidents. Sometimes they're wounded, sometimes they die, sometimes they fail. But devotees understand the eternal nature of the soul. Jivera Swarupur Krishnera Dityadas. That we're eternal servants of Krishna. We're eternal parts and parcels of Krishna. This is the basis of the Gita. The soul cannot be cut into pieces by weapons, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be, nothing of material energy can touch the eternal soul. Because the soul is such an ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. The Atma is part and parcel of Krishna. The Atma has the natural capacity for ecstatic love. Love for Krishna. Awareness of the brotherhood and sisterhood of every living being. That is our capacity. The capacity of the soul is to see the Atma in a lizard and see the sacredness of a part of Krishna. That is who we are. The body's going to go through all these changes. So Krishna consciousness is about realizing our eternal servitude toward Krishna. And understanding that in this world there is danger at every step. In this world everything is temporary. In this world, however pious and good and philanthropic and altruistic and nationalistic and generous and kind and loving, still you can suffer at any moment. That's the way the world is. Maybe less. But we see some of the cruelest, most selfish, envious people enjoying the most in this world. Yes? Their karma will get them eventually. They will have to suffer every act they do. And in one sense we can trace out that if I'm suffering, it must be due to some karma I did in a past life, even if I'm good in this life. That's all right. But you have to suffer anyway. No matter what you do and not do, you still have to suffer. Maybe less, maybe more. But Krishna says, Abrahma bhuvana loka. That means even the most pious people in the higher planets have to suffer. This material existence is a place of misery. Krishna consciousness is about realizing who we really are and living according to that principle. Even if we haven't attained that state, we're living according to that principle. I'm living in harmony with the will of my soul for Krishna. And even if suffering comes, still, I'm going to live according to that principle. Because the nature of the soul is to please Krishna. So this is for certain, that Krishna is always there to reciprocate with the love of his devotee. Always. 100% truth. Krishna says, it is my promise. I will be there for my devotees.